Namaskar, Namaskar. Welcome, students and learners of MAPY January batch 2020. Having finished with Mahatma Gandhi, we are going to take up Rabindranath Tagore and his philosophy, his life and times, and his writings. So let us begin with Rabindranath Tagore. As we said that no philosophical consideration will be complete without any reference to Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is more in the nature of a religious poet. It is right to call him a seer, visionary, or mystic. It is from his poetry that we know of his philosophy. He does not present his philosophy in an academic manner. His philosophical thoughts are scattered in his literature. So, one has to systematically arrange his thoughts in a particular manner so as to make it fit into the mold of an academic philosophy. So, Rabindranath Tagore, we are going to deal now with his life sketch and basic thought. Rabindranath Tagore was born on 7th August 1861 in Kolkata, Bengal. He belonged to an eminent and influential Bengali Brahmin family. He was born and brought up as an aristocrat and a lover of beauty. And he was born in a zamindari family. It was a landlord's family, right? So he became conscious of his higher mission of bringing human beings close to each other and to God. Tagore ranks with the greatest seers, sages, and devotees of India who valued human being above everything else. Under the influence of the liberal tradition of his family and the philosophy of the Upanishads, he developed a positive view of the life and love of humanity. He died on 7th August 1942. It's very, very interesting that both his birthday and death anniversary fall on the same day. Tagore had been deeply influenced by the thoughts of Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. The medieval Indian religious and social philosophy, especially of that of Bhakti movement and Sufi movement, also made an impact on his philosophical thinking. Though the metaphysics of Buddhism does not attract the poet much, the humanistic tradition of Buddha and Buddhist way of life appealed to him the most. In the spirit of the medieval saints and poets, he talked of the divinity of man and woman. Besides them, humanism of Vaishnavism, the mysticism of medieval saints, philosophy of human being of the Baul sect of Bengal, the singing minstrels, the mendicants, as they say, humanism of Christianity and Buddhism helped him from his humanistic ideas and ideals. Apart from this, Brahmo Samaj, which was founded by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, the revival and reform of Bengali literature guided by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, and the naturalistic and scientific movement also molded his thinking. Search for the absolute and nature of the world. I apologize, I'm stopping here for a second. There is some construction related work going on at the top of my accommodation, my floor, and therefore you will get to hear some noises. And I promise next week that will not be there, part of your talk given by Professor Nandini. From his early writings till his last poems, Tagore's poems are marked by a quest for the absolute. From the beginning itself, he felt that there is a basic current of unity, a basic force of life and harmony behind the world. In the poems of Gitanjali, this basic force takes the form of a Tao. This Tao is presented as Supreme Person who stands beside everyone, whose strength can transform his or her weakness into strength. Although this other is the companion of one's life, he passes often unnoticed. Though man or woman fails to see him, yet he or she lives in a hope of a final encounter with this other. This final encounter will be a moment of ultimate bliss. One might look into temples of organized religions to find this thou. But the God whom he or she longs for or seeks for is not there. It is in this sense, Tagore says, he's asking the question, whom does thou worship in this lonely dark corner of a temple with doors all shut? Question mark. Open thy eyes and see. Thy God is not before thee. He is there where the tiller is tilling the hard ground. It is from Gitanjali, volume 11, his famous Gitanjali, which won him the Nobel Prize in Literature. Already in Gitanjali, Tagore suggests that the Lord is to be discovered in man or woman rather than in the confines of organized religions. The Absolute, which was discovered as the force present in nature and then the force present in man or woman himself or herself, is now declared as the supreme man, quote unquote. Tagore will now speak of the humanity of our God or the divinity of man and woman. Reality and God. Though in the metaphysical context of distinction between God and reality is still maintained, Tagore does not treat reality and God as two different entities. It is noticed that Tagore rarely uses the term absolute for the absolute. The expressions that have been mostly used are quote unquote the universal man, supreme person, quote unquote the supreme spirit, quote unquote the infinite personality, etc. It can be said that his philosophy in peculiar and yet is a religious synthesis of abstract monism and a particular type of theism. Reality, according to him, is one. He identifies this reality with personal God. This identification of impersonal reality with personal God gives interesting results, and therefore Tagore can rightly be called an idealist or a spiritualist. He can again be described both as a monist and a theist. That is why many commentators on Tagore say so legitimately that Tagore's philosophy oscillates between Shankaracharya's Vedanta and Vaishnavism. Nature of the world. Coming to next subtopic, nature of the world. According to Tagore, the reality of creation has given a definite view on the nature of creation. Though his account of creation has a humanistic significance, it is more or less theistic. God, being the supreme reality, is the base of the universe. Here, the creation is said to be the manifestation or the expression of the absolute. According to Tagore, God finds himself by creating. The reason for creation is joy. Using the Indian concept of Leela, quote unquote. Leela means the wonders, the miracles of so and so divinity. Leela, Tagore says that creation is the Leela of Creator. He creates in the fullness of joy just to find himself in the place of joy. Creation is separate from Creator and is yet united with Him. So, it is the Creator who has created this world. Although it has come from within himself of the creator, still the creator and creation are separate because he has created it. He has made it. Let us come to philosophy of human person as we keep comparing between Gandhi and Tagore under the same subtopics. Philosophy of human person, according to Tagore, suggests the ultimate aim of human person. That is the final destiny. It is the realization of unity, the realization of divinity. It is comprehension in an act of supreme love, nature and everything else. It is the realization of universal within, universal. It is the realization of the universal within. Tagore says, I quote him, the ultimate destiny is the. Please, आवाज मत करो. The ultimately destiny is the realization of immortality of complete freedom. I'm sorry for the disruption. The spiritual progress of human being is from bondage to freedom. The embodied state is a state of bondage. As we go on unfolding the powers and the freedom of the soul by rising above the bodily bondage and by trying to realize our essential affinity with all, we are progressing towards immortality, towards the realization of complete freedom, quote unquote. While accepting human person as a material, psychological, social and moral being at a time, Tagore lays more stress on the moral and spiritual aspect of human person's nature. Nature of human person. Let us come to a nature of human person. According to Tagore, human person's real nature is that which he or she has not yet realized. The real glory of person is hidden in him or her. It is not external to him, but it is intrinsic. It is inside. All his or her outward activities and achievements do not reveal his or her nature. He or she is never satisfied with his or her present nature or present state. With that, he or she is, but he or she craves for what he or she thought to be. Tagore does not think human person to be imperfect, but incomplete, which is due to the fact that real meaning of himself or herself is not yet realized in his or her present state. According to him, human nature invites selfishness now and then and commits errors and crimes. This selfishness is human nature, which hinders the real view of our true nature. Tagore says every individual is to be helped wisely, reverently towards his or her own natural fulfillment. Every human person shall be himself or herself, shall have every opportunity to come to his or her own intrinsic fullness of being. The final aim is not to know but to be. The final aim of a human person is not to know but to be. You should be, should become. Sin and evil are nature of person's superficial self. According to Rabindranath Tagore, though man and woman had not actually revealed the infinity in his or her nature yet, in him or her infinite is present potentially, and therefore he or she by nature is not sinful but good. Like other Vedic and great thinkers, Tagore thinks that with the removal of ignorance or avidya, the human person's real nature will be revealed. His or her real nature is covered by the external covering of aham. Aham means your ego, which makes him or her limited to time and space. We are all bound by the limitation of time or space because we are manifesting ourselves in the ego, in the self. Now, coming to the next important topic, the self, individuality, and universality of human person. Rabindranath Tagore emphasized the reality and freedom of self. The self in us is divine. It is a part of God. The selves are parts of the divine, and they are therefore dependent on God. And therefore realize that self which is divine in you, human person is an individual being, and his or her individuality gives him or her unique identity among all creatures. Every individual is unique. In this plane, he has no second to him or her. He strongly believes that no force can destroy this individuality of a person, and no other being except God can enter into this world of person which he or she calls mind. The field of the individuality is the field of his or her freedom. Human person is not only individual but also is universal. Human person has an idea of perfection. This idea of perfect being is present in every human being, and here he or she has universality within himself or herself. These ideas and values make human person one with all other persons. Thus, this universality of human person raises him or her above other laws of nature. In this level, human being is universal. Therefore, there is no difference between one human person and other human persons. The differences of social, educational, economical, and political conditions cannot differentiate, cannot, cannot differentiate, cannot differentiate. Therefore, there is no difference between one human person and other human person. The differences of social, educational, economic, and political conditions. I'm repeating. The differences of social, educational, economical, and political conditions cannot differentiate the inherent unity of all human beings. Tagore says, I quote him, so, human person's individuality is not the highest truth. There is that in him or her which is universal. If he or she were made to live in a world where his or her own self was the only factor to consider, then that would be the worst prison imaginable to them. For a person's deepest joy is in growing greater and greater by more and more union with all. Quote unquote. Human being as a creator. As human being is free, his or her freedom is expressed in his or her creative act, where he or she becomes a partner of the Supreme Soul. His or her true nature is not revealed in his or her acts of necessities, but in acts which he or she does joyfully. Human being is not contented with the world given to him or her. Therefore, he or she creates his own world of creation, but that is only a pure work of art, which is created from among human beings' overflowing joy and inner urges of creation. Immortality. Now, let us come to the next subtopic, immortality of human being. Supreme human being is great because he or she does not want to live in isolation but wants to comprehend all. Again, human being is great because God is expressed through his or her being. As a human being is God's expression, he or she cannot be limited by the narrow boundaries of his or her lower self. For Tagore, a human person is made in the image of the divine artist. God himself and the divine artist is incomplete and unfulfilled unless he finds expression in the finite and human person. In the Unless he finds expression in the finite and human person, imitates the divine artist. This is his or her religious response, which gives him or her immortality in the divine creator. He or she is immortal in that aspect where he or she is true, transcending his or her small partial ego, quote unquote. In his or her inner being, he or she actualizes the desire of all, gives form to joy of all. But if he or she goes to opposite direction, he or she falls from the truth of humanity. Therefore, Rabindranath Tagore wants to live in the plane where human being is immortal, where he or she dwells in the universal. Tagore reminds human beings that they are children of immortality, quote unquote. Their immortality consists in their greatness. Tagore compares a person's greatness with the morning sun, whose horizon is far away from us. A person's greatness consists in this, that he or she knows that he or she is not yet born and he or she is yet to realize his or her true nature. Tagore's religious thoughts. The religion of Rabindranath was the poet's religion. It was neither an orthodox religion of piety nor a mystic religion of a theology. So let us note what kind of a religion that he believed in. So Tagore's religion was neither an orthodox religion of piety nor a mystic religion of a theologian, a practicing person and a practicing religious person. The religious consciousness of the poetic talent were so interrelated that he was unable to isolate the divine element from his poetic words. This is very well expressed in the insight meaning in his poetical work Gitanjali. His religious life has followed the same mysterious line of growth as his poetical life. The spiritual freedom or the liberation of the soul or mukti formed one of the cardinal truths of religion. Each man or woman is conscious of the transcendent truth in him or her, which is made known to him or her through his or her inner fulfillment. The religion of Tagore preaches fearlessness of the finite as it has implicit faith in the deathlessness of the real of quote unquote whole man. The philosophy of self surrender and the integration of the individual being with the cosmic being are as old as Upanishadic teaching, that is Tattvam Asi. All these are possible when a human being learns the real significance of selfless life and detachment. Social and political philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore's social philosophy cannot be separated from his humanism. His social philosophy is an outcome of his humanism. In his social thinking, humanistic viewpoint is expressed. His social thinking can be divided mainly into two broad divisions. One is the aspect of knowledge or analysis, another is the aspect of solving the problems or practical side. And he himself takes active part in removing and solving the problems of social injustice. Economic and political problems are also for him parts of our social life. Tagore never believes in the existence of any other world when every individual of the earth unfolds all his or her potentialities and blooms in his or her fullest and complete form. And when all human beings coexist in love and companionship with each other, heaven will come down to this earth. His social philosophy aims at progress of life in all its aspects. He was fully aware of all evils of India in those days: ignorance, poverty, social injustice, political subjection, slavery, and bondage labor. Therefore, in this philosophy, why he wisely highlights the equality of human beings in full real freedom as individual human beings. For Tagore, merely no war is not identical with peace, because according to him, no war forms only negative aspect of peace. What matters to him is the positive aspect of peace. And what is positive aspect of peace? That is to realize spiritual harmony of human beings. Peace, according to him, cannot be mere negative of war, but it should mean mutual understanding and sympathy among the people of the same nation, other nations, and universe at large. Therefore, real peace cannot be achieved by any instrument or policy but through the spirit of love. He has traveled all over the world preaching the ideal of universal peace. He believes that each race should be allowed to develop itself, and at the same time, a sense of unity should be developed in people so that keeping their identities, the different races and nations can meet and unite with each other for the national and universal peace. With that, we have completed an overview of Rabindranath Tagore and his philosophy. His human person philosophy, his ideas of God, the truth, the absolute, and also the social and political injustices of his time, which he thought was by removing them and the spiritual harmony of mankind, we can only attain peace. Peace does not only mean mere what is called, no war. So war is not alone is the enemy of peace, but also entire injustice, whether it is the social injustice in the form of caste system or women's suppression and oppression, political injustices of his time by the British colonial administrators on India, poverty particularly. So all these were part of uh, problems obstructing peace. Only by removal of all these injustices and inequalities, according to Rabindranath Tagore, the real peace could be achieved, just not by controlling war. So, we are summing up now as we do every time. Rabindranath Tagore has an anthropomorphic conception of God, that is human centric, man centric. Anthropomorphic centric means human centric or man centric conception of God. The infinite has been conceived as the supreme human personality. God is the creator of finite selves and nature. Though theism has the dominant theme in Tagore's philosophy, the impersonal and indeterminate nature of the absolute also finds place. The creation is considered as the Leela, as we said, the miracles, the deeds of. The creation is considered, what is creation? The earth, the entire world. The creation is considered as the Leela of the Creator God. In other words, God finds himself in creation. While speaking about human person, he places more emphasis on the spiritual and moral aspects of human being. One of the notable factors of Tagore's philosophy is that he sometimes makes his position confusing at times. That's what the people think. And the inconsistency in his thinking is justified by the fact that he is basically a mystic and a poet and a world poet, achieved through his Gitanjali, for which the collection of poetry for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize, and we all know he was the first Indian to get the Nobel Prize in literature. Thank you so much, learners and students of MA Philosophy, especially the batch of 2020. It's been a brief session, about 25 minutes, and you hopefully have enjoyed Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore remains an enigma in our cultural history of modern India. He was a mystic, he was a philosopher, he was essentially a poet of world class. So, read this unit again and again to answer, check your progress questions. All the best, learners. Namaskar.